Good morning and welcome to today's vote from the New York City Committee on General Welfare. At this point, I'd like to remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices, and at no point is anyone to approach the dais. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's hearing. My name is Diana Ayala, and I am the Deputy Speaker of the New York City Council and the Chair of the General Welfare Committee. Today, our committee will be voting on several bills: Intro 791, Intro 1175, and Reso 362, Intro 791, sponsored by Councilmember Lincoln Rustler, would require DSS to post on its website data concerning vacant supportive housing units. Intro 1175, sponsored by Councilmember Julie Menin, would require the Office to End Domestic Violence and Gender-Based Violence to establish a program to provide income-eligible domestic violence survivors with both brief legal assistance and full legal representation throughout a divorce proceeding. Finally, Resolution 362, sponsored by Councilmember Eric Bottcher, calls on the New York State Legislature to pass and the Governor to sign 8.701 S988, the Social Worker Workforce Act. The act will repeal the requirement that social work graduates must pass an examination to receive an LMSW license, thus creating the mental health provider workforce in New York. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues who are here today, Councilmembers Riley, Caban, Aviles, Ressler, and Ung, who's joining us online. And I would also like to thank the committee staff who worked to prepare this hearing and vote. Aminta Kilawan, Senior Legislative Counsel, who's back, yay. Penina Rosenberg, Senior Policy Analyst, Justin Campos, Policy Analyst, Elizabeth Childers Garcia, Finance Analyst, Faria Rahman, Finance Analyst, Julia Haramis, Unit Head, and finally my staff, Elsie Encarnacion, Chief of Staff. Would any of the council members like to speak on there? Okay, Councilman Menin.
Thank you so much, Chair. Today I'm thrilled that after so many years we will finally have a program to help domestic violence survivors get legal representation in divorce proceedings. In 2021, this council passed legislation to create a pilot program for income-eligible domestic violence survivors in divorce proceedings. Unfortunately, the pilot program was never implemented, and today our City Council is righting that wrong. In June, we passed the New York City budget that included $2 million so that a new right to counsel could be given to domestic violence survivors with divorce proceedings. My bill, Intro 1175, will implement a permanent program to provide full legal representation and brief legal assistance for income-eligible domestic violence survivors in divorce proceedings in the city. It's estimated that this legislation will help up to 800 low-income survivors find the vital resources they need to obtain an attorney and to be educated on their legal rights. Our Women Majority City Council is making sure New York City remains committed to helping DV survivors, and this is just a first step in helping people who may have limited English proficiency, be culturally isolated, or feel intimidated by the legal system. I encourage my colleagues to vote in favor of this badly needed new right to counsel program for domestic violence victims. And finally, I want to thank the chair for allowing me to speak, and I want to thank drafter Jesse Fung, policy analyst Penina Rosenberg, and thank my team, Jonathan Shett and Brandon Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge that we've also been joined by Councilmember Stevens and Councilmember Banks, and I want to thank you, Councilmember Menin, for this legislation. I was very supportive of it, initially, and I've shared this before, but when I was married many years ago and in a domestic violence situation, and before then, the state did not recognize the solution of marriage for certain categories. You had to either have been abandoned for a year and be able to prove that you executed every option, to get that husband back, or that they were physically abusive, but then you had to show 3 different examples of how that person was abusive, and it had to have been, relatively recently. So if you were separated because of that, then, it didn't matter. And it took me many, many years to be able to dissolve that marriage because I couldn't afford it. So I know, that the trauma of having to be forced into, staying in a legal relationship with somebody that has, really traumatized you is devastating. And so thank you for that, because I think that this is going to help a lot of individuals reestablish their lives and be able to move on and put closure to, that part of their story. With that, I would now like to turn it over to the clerk to do the roll call for this vote. Oh, wait a minute, Councilmember Russell, you weren't, no, he didn't want, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on General Welfare, 791A, 1175A, and proposed resolution 362A. Chair Ayala.
Aye.
Wrestler.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Caban.
Aye.
Aviles.
Aye. Congratulations to my colleagues, and thank you for the legislation.
Osei. Stevens.
Aye.
Ung.
Aye.
Thank you. Banks.
Aye, and congratulations on the legislation.
With a vote of 8 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, all items have been adopted by the committee.
And with that, this hearing is closed.